Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg, and welcome to this series on the UVI instrument Synth Anthology 4. Now, this is hosted within either Falcon or the UVI workstation, and it's a really interesting synth plugin. It's different than most synth plugin instruments in that you don't start with an oscillator and choose a synthesis type and match oscillators and so on. It's a collection of over 200 hardware synths, so right out of the box, you're starting with models of hardware synths. And the thing about this Synth Anthology 4 is that it's a dual layer engine. So the idea is that you layer any two synths together, and then you can modulate the mix with this here. But you choose, instead of oscillators, you're choosing hardware synth models, and then you're using a dual layer architecture where you can mix and match them. Now, what's unique about this also is what's called the Proximity Explorer. It's a smart suggestion system that analyzes the sonic attributes of whatever sound you have currently loaded in, and then it provides you with another 8 sound options to explore and remix. And it's a fast way to create variations, audition-related sounds, and it really is a creative rabbit hole that can bring about a lot of serendipity. Now, I've got just the first preset here called up, and these are the presets for the whole state of Synth Anthology 4. And here are the two layers. And here we have the main sounds. And here we have the different variations. So just to give you a little idea, here's a simple part programmed up. And I can click on these dots for the variations. I can blend between them. And we can always go back to the original sound with that. And we can click this to refresh and get a new series of variations. That's kind of interesting. We can turn each layer off if you want to work with just one layer. Of course, there's no sound. We have volume for each layer. Put the second one back on. And we can access a browser of presets by clicking in here. We can go to different categories of sounds and choose something new like that. That's working nice. And here I have a Behringer here and a Roland Jupiter 8 here. So serendipity is the name of the game with this. We can jump in here, go to the different categories, auto load, revert back to the original one, and click that to close if you want. And we also can adjust the range here, so you can set key splits and again the volume blend. And then at the bottom we have some overall sound shaping macros. I can add some phase shifting, there's a power button. Some distortion. Cloud is a nice kind of shimmer reverb. Overall tone control. Feedback, which can be interesting, especially for note off when you stop the sound. Now we can modulate between the two layers with this. We developed the depth of the modulation. You see the momentary dot there. Here we can choose different shapes. That's sine wave. There's a triangle. A square, where it's just going to jump back and forth. There's the speed, the modulation. And we can optionally sync it to tempo when this is engaged. Otherwise, it's just free running. There's quarter notes. There's a slower movement. So very interesting just to experiment on the main page like this. Now there are editing facilities. We've got layer A and layer B. We can jump to the edit page from there, and each one is the same, just they pertain to each of the individual layers. But we can also jump using this gear icon. So here we get to the same layer-based browser for sounds over there. We have gain, pan, smoothing of the filter, ADSR. We have 3 different filter types, each with a couple of variations, and then a filter envelope. We have some pitch controls, different triggering modes and unison and octave doubling and pitch variations and pitch modulation, and there's a unison mode as well. And this is the same for both pages. Now here, we get an effects tab that brings out a series of effects, again, unique for each of the 2 layers, A and B. There's a wave shaper you can turn on with related controls, flanger, chorus, phaser, EQ. And then we have send effects for 2 reverbs and 2 delays. And we get to the effects page here where we get the return of those sends, spark, verb, convolver, and the two delays and different parameters for each. We're going to explore all this. And then we also have the bus effects, which pertain to the whole instrument. We have drive that we can turn on or off, simple EQ, and a limiter. Now, there's also a really intuitive modulation system. Here we have different modulators. We have two LFOs. We can turn them on or off like that, and you click on them to get the different parameters displayed, and two step sequencers. Now, each of these has these little dots we can just click and dial up. Let's say, for example, let me go back to the main parameters. Let's say I want to automate the filter cutoff. I can click here and just bring up whichever one I want of the available modulators. We have the four that I just showed you, plus some real-time performance ones like velocity, mod wheel, aftertouch, and MIDI CC. And we can do that, or we can simply click right in here and we look at the info tag and see, for example, that's LFOB that I'm dialing up there. And so on. And there's also a really functional arpeggiator here. We get layer A, layer B, so we can have two separate arpeggiators, or click the dual button and the same will apply to both. And it's full featured, and there's two different modes. We have the arpeggiator mode and phraser mode. We'll explore this all in great detail, but there's a lot of really interesting things that we can do with these. And so on. So that's a quick flyover of the interface. We'll continue with more in the next video.